Good evening, I'm Maham Tawa with the news-making headlines around the world. His Highness the Emir receives Their Excellencies the GCC ministers participating in the 22nd meeting of the GCC Ministers of Information. His Highness the Emir receives the visiting UN Special Envoy to Syria. The second media forum of the Gulf Cooperation Council continues its sessions. And the UN Secretary General is in Gaza to boost international reconstruction efforts. In our first item, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received this morning at Bayan Palace His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah. His Highness the Emir also received His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al-Mubarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister. His Highness the Emir later received the First Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Sabah Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received this afternoon at Bayan Palace in the presence of His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, the Minister of Information and Minister of State for Youth Affairs Sheikh Salman Sabah Al-Ahmoud Al-Sabah, and Their Excellencies the Ministers of Information of the Gulf Cooperation Council participating in the 22nd meeting of the GCC Ministers of Information being held in Kuwait. His Highness the Emir underscored the importance of finding out a cultural vision and a joint message to combat risks that the GCC countries and the whole region are facing, stressing the keenness of the GCC's leaders on enhancing common cooperation that promotes Gulf unity against challenges in the region. For his part, the Minister of Culture and Information of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Dr. Abdulaziz Khoja, praised the directives of His Highness the Emir and all the GCC leaders and underlined the importance of media role in the age of information technology and social media. The meeting was attended by the Deputy Minister of the Emiri Diwan Affairs, Sheikh Ali Jarrah Al-Sabah.
في ظروف كبيرة خطيرة جدا من كل ناحية، وهذه مسؤولية كبيرة جدا. أصبح الإعلام فعلا يعني أداة كبيرة جدا، يعني يعادل الجيش ويعادل الدفاع ويعادل كل شيء طال عمرك. لكن ما في شك في ظل قيادتكم طال عمرك وبظل توجيهاتكم، في أنتم كلكم قياداتنا في مجلس التعاون. الحمد لله إن شاء الله بعون الله تعالى نعدكم أن نبذل كل جهدنا أن نمثل هذه الصورة الحقيقية والحضارية لنا في هذا الوقت الحرج وهذا الوقت الصعب.
وهذا أملنا
إن شاء الله. وإحنا طال عمرك يعني العالم كله طال عمرك بيقدركم ويقدر دول يعني أقربها. يعني أسمح لي إني بالنيابة عن زملائي إني أقدم تهنئتي الخاصة لهذا الشرف الكبير بالواقع اللي إحنا فعلا نحس به جميعا في الأمم المتحدة، قائد الإنساني للعمل الإنساني، وكذلك بالنسبة للكويت إنها تكون مركز للعمل الإنساني. والحمد لله قبل كده خادم الحرمين الشريفين كما تعلمون كيف يعني مبادراته الكريمة في الحوار مع الأديان والثقافات ومع الآخر، وآخرها أيضا أخذ دكتوراه بشهادة بجامعة الأزهر. والحمد لله يعني إحنا نفتخر بكم طال عمرك بهذه القيادات العظيمة اللي إحنا نحس بها بأمان طال عمرك، ونحس معاكم بأمان، ونحس بتجربتكم الكبيرة وتجربتكم الرائدة. وإحنا كوزراء إعلام ووزراء ثقافة إحنا تعهدنا إننا فعلا هذا وقتنا، وليس فقط الأجهزة الرسمية زي ما قلت الإعلام الرسمي كما تفضل سموك، وإنما الإعلام بصفة عامة، الخاص والعام والإعلام الجديد اللي بنعاني منه الآن، والتويتر واليوتيوب والتواصل الاجتماعي بمختلف أنواعه. هذه اللي دخل علينا وهجم علينا هجوم كبير جدا، فلازم نوضع فيه فعلا يعني طرق يعني للتواكب معه والمعاملة الصحيحة معه. انه كل ابنائنا اللي بيديروا عمليه، لكن لازم نرشدهم، لازم نعلمهم كيف يعني اللحمه الوطنيه كيف تكون.
المهم بالموضوع نحن قد من الله علينا الحمد لله بالخير ونعمه، يجب ان نحمد ربنا عليها ونحافظ عليه، نحافظ على مجلسنا ان شاء الله، مجلس التعاون، من يكون دائم، يعني ما يعوقه شيء، ما يعوق اي شيء، لا يمشي، خصوصا بهالظروف اللي نحن عايشين فيها. وهذا ان شاء الله مع يعني اتصالاتنا مع الاخوان كلهم، اتمنى ان شاء الله المؤتمر القادم شهر 12 اظن 12 ان شاء الله حيكون يكتمل بحضور الجميع ان شاء الله، ونبحث في كل امورنا ان شاء الله. اقول اكرر ترحيبي فيكم وسؤالي عن اصحاب الجلاله، اصحاب السوء، عن صحتهم، كيف صحتهم؟
والله كلهم بخير، ويهديكم التحيه والسلام. خادم حرمين، ولي عهد سيد مقرين، انا حقيقه الجميع بيبلغوكم تحياتهم وهم بخير. الله يبارك فيكم ويديم عليكم الصحه ويبارك لنا فيكم جميعا. في الواقع انتم يعني منارات، وانتم يعني الا يعني الحمد لله بتلهمونا كثير من الاشياء، وحدتكم مع بعض، فهمكم مع بعض طال عمرك، هذا بيدينا القوه جميعا. الشيخ سلمان في الواقع قام بجهد كبير جدا في اجتماع اليوم، انتهينا اجتماع وزراء الاعلام وكان اجتماع وزراء الثقافه، فقام بجهد كبير جدا حقيقه. الله ان شاء الله يعني يبارك فيه، وادار الجلسات بحكمه وببصيره، وانتهينا الى قرارات مهمه جدا ان شاء الله اذا طبقت حيكون لها اثرها الكبير جدا في مسيره العالم.
انا لي ثقه كبيره في اخي وزير الشباب بانه سيبذل كل جهده
ان شاء الله ان شاء الله تستقبل.
His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received this morning at Bayan Palace the First Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Sabah Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, accompanied by His Excellency the Canadian Minister of Foreign Affairs John Baird, who conveyed a written letter from His Excellency the Governor General of Canada David Johnston to His Highness the Emir, congratulating His Highness for being honoured by the United Nations as a humanitarian leader and the State of Kuwait as humanitarian centre. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received this morning at the Bayan Palace the First Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Sabah Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, accompanied by the UN Special Envoy to Syria Stefan de Mistura and his accompanying delegation on the occasion of his visit to the country. The meeting was attended by the Deputy Minister of the Emiri Diwan Affairs Sheikh Ali Jarrah Al-Sabah.
الرحمن الرحيم.
I had the opportunity, and it was a great honor, to meet His Highness and the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister. And with His Highness we discussed, of course, the situation in Syria, the implications that the Syrian conflict and crisis has also in the region, the need to assist everyone who has been affected by it, and as you know, Kuwait has been extremely generous, both financially in organizing important international meetings for that. We came to the conclusion that we will have to keep closely in touch because what has been now a new factor, the attacks by Daesh in the region, has brought also new opportunities for the more proactive attention on how to solve politically, through a political process, the Syrian conflict. Daesh has taken control of a large portion of not only Iraq but of Syria, and through its own violence has shown the type of horror that it can produce. This is undoubtedly, I hope, and we hope, and I think His Highness is feeling the same, an opportunity for everyone to also look in a very concrete way on how to make sure that the political solution is reached in Syria, because Daesh has been taking the opportunity of the conflict in Syria in order to progress in its own horrific agenda.
His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received today a cable of congratulations from His Excellency the President of the Hellenic Republic of Greece, Carlos Papoulias, on the occasion of the United Nations honoring His Highness the Emir as humanitarian leader and the State of Kuwait as humanitarian center. In his cable, the Greek President commended the great philanthropic efforts exerted by His Highness the Emir locally and internationally to sustain humanitarian values. His Highness the Emir sent a reply cable expressing gratitude to the Greek leader for his warm sentiments that reflects great bilateral ties. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received today a cable of congratulations from His Excellency the Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Mohammad Nawaz Sharif, on the occasion of the United Nations honoring His Highness the Emir as humanitarian leader and the State of Kuwait as humanitarian center. In his cable, the Pakistani Premier commended the great efforts exerted by His Highness the Emir locally and internationally to sustain humanitarian values. His Highness the Emir sent a reply cable expressing gratitude to the Pakistani Premier for his warm sentiments that reflects great bilateral ties. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received today a cable of congratulations from His Excellency the Governor General of Canada, David Johnston, on the occasion of the United Nations honoring His Highness the Emir as humanitarian leader and the State of Kuwait as humanitarian center. In his cable, the Canadian leader commended the great efforts exerted by His Highness the Emir locally and internationally to sustain humanitarian values. His Highness the Emir sent a reply cable expressing gratitude to the Canadian leader for his warm sentiments that reflects great bilateral ties. His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received this morning at Bayan Palace His Highness Sheikh Jabir Al-Mubarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister. His Highness the Crown Prince also received the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Interior and Acting Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs, Sheikh Mohammed Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah. His Highness the Crown Prince then received the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defense, Sheikh Khalid Al-Jarrah Al-Sabah. His Highness the Crown Prince later received the Minister of Public Works and Minister of Electricity and Water, Abdulaziz Abdul Latif Al-Ibrahim. And finally, His Highness the Crown Prince received Sheikh Dr. Mohammed Subah Al-Salim Subah. His Highness Sheikh Jabir Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Subah, the Prime Minister, received today at Bayan Palace in the presence of the First Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Subah Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Subah, His Excellency the Canadian Minister of Foreign Affairs John Burt and his accompanying delegation on the occasion of his visit to the country. The meeting was attended by the Assistant Under-Secretary for Local Affairs at His Highness the Premier's Diwan Sheikh Khalid Mohammed Al-Khalid Al-Subah. His Highness Sheikh Jabir Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Subah, the Prime Minister, received today at Bayan Palace in the presence of the First Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Subah Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Subah, the UN Special Envoy to Syria Stefan de Mistura and his accompanying delegation on the occasion of his visit to the country. The meeting was attended by the Director of the International Organizations Department at the Foreign Ministry, Ambassador Jassim Al-Mbaraki, Kuwait's delegate to the Arab League, Ambassador Aziz Al-Dehani, and Assistant Under-Secretary for Local Affairs at His Highness the Premier's Diwan, Sheikh Khalid Mohammed Al-Khalid Al-Subah. The National Conference for Empowering Competencies opened its first session yesterday under the patronage of His Highness Sheikh Jabir Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Subah, the Prime Minister, under the directives of His Highness the Emir Sheikh Subah Al-Ahmed Al-Jabir Al-Subah. In collaboration with the National Assembly, the two-day conference aims at giving voice to citizens to express their desired change in the criteria process of employment. Reporter Badriya Saleh brings us more in this report.
The National Conference for Empowering Competency is set to install criteria for government institutions and state-run companies to ensure that fair employment hiring processes become a tangible reality. The two-day conference will tackle the absence of clear criteria for appointments in the public sector, as well as aim to achieve fairness in choosing and hiring the right person to the right post in attempts to maintain the highest interests of the state, as well as the public and private sectors.
لدعم الكفاءات الوطنية ووضع القواعد.
I am happy to take part in this event, which reflects the vision of His Highness the Emir Sheikh Subah Al-Ahmed Al-Jabir Al-Subah in supporting youth and realizing their dreams in all fields to achieve national development. We rate their role very highly as we involve youth in the decision-making process. There is no doubt that such conferences and gatherings will enrich the concerned bodies with new ideas to support national youth and pave the way for competent Kuwaiti youth to take leading posts in the government with complete transparency.
The conference will focus on strategic alternatives to establish superiority and leadership positions in the government sector, as well as how to best use the successful outcomes of the educational progress set in the private sector. Speakers at the conference underlined that employment fairness would help increase employee productivity, a key stimulant to boost state and society's development process.
The conference is organized by by Kuwait National Assembly, and it's sponsored by the Prime Minister of Kuwait. The most important part of the conference is that we can have some recommendations written down, and so we can just let the Speaker of the Parliament know what the majority of the people of Kuwait think, what we need to change, what we need to keep, and how can we develop most of the laws, or like everything we have right now.
The two-day conference will see the participation of many experts in the fields of planning and development collaborating together to form solutions for raising the national employment standards.
The National Conference for Empowering Competence goes until the 15th of October. At the Regency Hotel, I'm Badriya Saleh, reporting for the English News.
Under the patronage of the First Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Subah Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Subah, the second media forum of the Gulf Cooperation Council continued its sessions with the attendance of a number of senior Gulf analysts and media figures. The forum started as a Kuwaiti initiative to combine GCC media figures to explore the issues and matters of mutual concern. Today's sessions discussed various topics regarding the GCC media's credibility and freedom of the press, as well as the media future in the GCC countries. The first Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Sabah Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah met today with the visiting UN Special Envoy to Syria, Staffan de Mistura, to discuss the latest developments concerning the Syrian situation and the international efforts exerted to peacefully solve this crisis. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defence Sheikh Khalid Al-Jarrah Al-Sabah met today with the Canadian Minister of Foreign Affairs John Baird and his accompanying delegation to discuss bilateral ties between the two countries. During the meeting, the officials shed light on key issues of common concern, mainly the military matters, and ways to enhance cooperation between the two sides. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon made a brief visit today to war-ravaged Gaza, 2 days after donor states pledged $5.4 billion in aid to rebuild after a devastating Israeli offensive. Meanwhile, Israel allowed the first shipment of building materials to enter the Gaza Strip. From Gaza, Majlou Haidi has more in this report.
This is not the first visit of United Nations chief into the Gaza Strip, but this time, reality is indeed different. The scenes of the vast destruction caused by the latest war, in addition to the destroyed UN schools and shelters with a displaced population, made Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, express his statements with a heavy heart. He said in a press conference that the destruction he has seen is beyond description, calling on Palestinian and Israeli leaders to revive their peace talks.
I emphasize in my meetings with the Israelis and other Palestinian officials that there is no hope for the long-term stability of Gaza without addressing the underlying causes of the conflict. I'm asking the leaders of both parties, Palestinians and Israelis, to resume their talks so that they will be able to address the underlying root causes. Otherwise, it's a matter of time that, unfortunately, the violence may continue.
UN's chief visit came 2 days after donor states pledged more than $5 billion in aid to rebuild the war-battered enclave. Earlier on Tuesday, Israel opened the Kerem Shalom crossing to allow the first shipment of building materials to enter the Gaza Strip for starting the process of reconstruction. But for observers, this was a symbolic move, and the complete rebuilding is yet to begin.
What had been entered yesterday through Kerem Shalom crossing, it's an symbolic step. We cannot say that it's an beginning of Gaza reconstruction, since it's these reconstruction materials which was entered, it was shared for the UN projects. The main reconstruction process, it will be started when the Israelis would open all the crossings.
For the last 8 years, Israel has severely restricted all imports and exports, including basic supplies such as concrete. Without an end to the Israeli blockade, the reconstruction and the future hold many challenges. Nowadays, Gazans are holding onto the promises of the reconstruction to become a reality. For them, these promises are a chance to rebuild their hopes in an independent state and a peaceful life for them and their children. Majlou Haidi, Kuwait TV, Gaza.
And finally, moving to the local financial news, where the three main indices of Kuwait Stock Exchange ended today's trading session in red, with the price index dropping by 39 points to reach 7,541 points. The KSX 15 index also lost 4 points to settle at 1,198 points, and the weight index lost about 1.5 points and settled at 491 points. The share of the Independent Petroleum Group was the top gainer of the day, while that of the Future Kid Entertainment and a real estate company suffered the biggest loss. For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. Well, with that, we conclude our news bulletin. Thank you for joining us. Have a pleasant time. I'm Mamtawa. Before we go, we remind you once again of our main top stories. Have a pleasant time and good night. His Highness the Emir receives Their Excellencies the GCC Ministers participating in the 22nd meeting of the GCC Ministers of Information. His Highness the Emir receives the visiting UN Special Envoy to Syria. The second media forum of the Gulf Cooperation Council continues its sessions. And the UN Secretary General is in Gaza to boost international reconstruction efforts.